Ngalakin kadijan yunga boja.
Hello everyone and welcome to our presentation, What does internationalisation truly mean and are we preparing students appropriately? Developing a global learning toolkit. My name is Joanne Castelli and I am from the University of Western Australia. I would like to start with an acknowledgement of country. I respectfully acknowledge the past and present traditional custodians of the land from which I speak today, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. The other members of the team are Reva Ramia and Paul Kebbell, both from Curtin University in Western Australia. Paul is the Coordinator Academic Literacy Development in the Faculty of Health Sciences. Reva is an English Language Development Coordinator and Senior Lecturer in the Faculty of Science and Engineering. And I am a Learning Designer at the Educational Enhancement Unit at UWA. We came together for this project over a shared commitment to improving the learning experience and the graduate outcomes of the students we support. All three of us will facilitate a follow-up online workshop, and I'll provide details of that at the end of the presentation. In this presentation, I will define internationalisation and global learning. I'll discuss the importance of embedding culture and language in learning and teaching. I'll introduce you to the concept of the Global Learning Toolkit, and I'll let you know how you can get involved in helping develop, contribute to, and access the toolkit. To provide some context for this presentation, Advanced HE proposes that a fundamental aspect of internationalising higher education is preparing 21st century graduates to live in and contribute responsibly to a globally interconnected society. However, the reality is that international students are often expected to conform to the language and culture of the university at which they are studying, whether face-to-face or online, whilst at the same time, domestic or home students are not necessarily engaging with the realities of global citizenship and its impact on their future careers. This leads us to question if the experience we are providing for our students is really preparing them for the realities of global citizenship, and are we preparing our students for future careers that may include working with culturally and linguistically diverse people. Internationalisation is not just about having international students on campus. Knight defined internationalisation as the intentional process of integrating an international, intercultural or global dimension into the purpose, functions or delivery of post-secondary education. DeWitt and Hunter expanded the definition with the words, in order to enhance the quality of education and research for all students and staff and to make a meaningful contribution to society. There are other definitions of internationalisation. This one comes from Gu Mingyuan, a leading education scholar from China, who says, the internationalisation of education can be expressed in the exchange of culture and values, mutual understanding and a respect for difference. It does not simply mean the integration of different national cultures or the suppression of one national culture by another culture. Now we are moving towards the idea of global learning, which requires the integration of multiple and often diverse and conflicting perspectives across both macro and micro contexts. Khan and Anu make the point that in global learning, difference is as much a primary component as is similarity. These are the types of ideas we want students to take on board as part of their training in global citizenship. I have mentioned the word culture several times already. So what is the definition of culture? You may have your own definition, but we think that culture can be defined as the ideas, customs, values, and social behaviour of a particular people or society. Or put more simply, the things we do and how and why we do them. Cultural competence could then be thought of as our ability to understand and accept all of these. Another question to ponder. What type of cultural content would you prefer to use in your teaching and why? Content that deals with local places and people, content that deals primarily with the life and culture of other English-speaking countries, or content that deals with the life and culture of various countries around the world? There is no one right answer to this question. The type of cultural content you include in your teaching could depend on the discipline in which you teach and the intended learning outcomes of your students. But it would be optimal for students to be exposed to all of these types of content over the course of their degree. This list gives some examples of how we might be able to embed cultural content somewhere in our teaching. We could start with talking about culture and language in our icebreakers and activities. We could use global exemplars and perspectives. We could think about content, language, pace, and modes of delivery. We can ensure that the learning outcomes, which are the specific knowledge, skills, and attitudes we want our students to learn, are culturally diverse and important. And we can include the perspectives of other cultures in our teaching. We also need to be aware that some of our students may speak other Englishes than the one we may speak. Stirs Up makes the point that a monolingual, monolithic and native speaker performance of English, often associated with white varieties of English, is used as the benchmark for linguistic and academic proficiency and for legitimate participation in learning. Having an understanding of this, and perhaps thinking about the acknowledgement or incorporation of other Englishes in our teaching, especially in our assessment of students' work, is also important. Our question now is not so much just about the internationalisation of learning and teaching. Our new question is, are we preparing students appropriately for global learning? As I've already mentioned, it's important that students are able to access some type of culturally and linguistically diverse learning somewhere in their degree. You could think about using examples from different languages, such as this article makes us aware that Aboriginal English is spoken by an estimated 80% of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and is the first and only language spoken by many Aboriginal children. We could also use concepts from other cultures. An example is the Kawa model, developed by Japanese and Canadian rehabilitation professionals and also used by occupational therapists. I also like this quote from Iacarino, who says, "Western science could learn a thing or two from the way science is done in other cultures." It makes the point that we can look to other cultures in our teaching. We can also try to incorporate content in our teaching from diverse sources and Indigenous researchers. These are the sorts of ideas we want to collate into a global learning toolkit. Since we started this project, the resources in the toolkit have grown. We are aiming to gather a trove of resources that educators can use and share to help them with embedding content from other cultures into their teaching. We would like you to help build the toolkit by contributing ideas and experiences from your own teaching. We want to continue to add strategies and activities over time, especially in light of the changes in learning and teaching that have occurred worldwide in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement. To progress with the Global Learning Toolkit, we invite you to join us at an online workshop. Our aim is to transform perceptions and understandings of what internationalisation truly means in the Australian higher education setting. We want to move forward with a specific focus on preparing 21st century globally interconnected graduates and citizens through global learning. We will discuss and collate practical solutions and activities to incorporate into our teaching under the headings of the importance of other cultures, especially Indigenous cultures, in teaching and learning, the importance of other Englishes in teaching and learning, the use of digital technologies and the lessons learned recently as many of us moved our teaching online in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We will consider students working in groups and how we can ensure that students see the value of working with students from different cultures and who may use different Englishes. We will talk about transforming our own teaching practice and identifying any gaps in our own toolkit for teaching. You can express your interest in the workshop by emailing me, joanne.castelli@uwa.edu.au. Paul, Reva and I will schedule the workshop according to the responses we get. You can also contribute to the existing Global Learning Toolkit by sending us your ideas. The growing toolkit will be shared with everyone who registers an expression of interest for the online workshop or contributes ideas for the toolkit. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Reva, Paul and I look forward to collaborating with you soon.